Pennsylvania State Police, badge number 12433. It's Saturday, May 16th, 2020.
It's Trooper Thomas, badge number 10847. Today's date, May 16th, 2020. Time is 0124 hours and 124 a.m.
Welcome to Sunset Secrets Season 3, Advocating in Aliquippa.
Brandon, like I said before we started the recording, I'm just going to kind of ask you where you were coming from when you were driving up. What's the street?
Friday night about
I actually don't know the name of the street.
Facebook.
So, for lack of better terms, we'll say driving up the hill.
Did it give you any indication anything was wrong or anything like that?
Route 51. So where were you coming from?
I was actually coming from Rochester.
Rochester?
I started from my address, which is the current address on my license. I'm staying with my parents.
What address is that?
853 Reno Street,
Okay.
Rochester, PA.
So why were you coming to Aliquippa over this location?
Good telephone number?
Because I was actually going to go and chill, hang out, whatever you want to call it, with my buddies over there. The one is Preston, he's in the purple car, and the other one standing outside the police line is Gene. That's his father.
Okay, so Preston and Gene live over here?
Yes.
Okay.
They live, it's 103.
Were you at home?
Yes.
Okay. So kind of walk me through what happens.
Okay. Now, my son and I just got back from Sharon, PA.
Okay.
It was about 11:30. And my wife had eaten dinner, got in her shower, and was going to bed.
Okay.
My son and I stepped out on the porch, and it was, ballpark figure around midnight. And we heard multiple shots. It sounded like about 10 of them.
Yeah, 51, and then right up here.
Could you sense like what direction they were coming from, or?
I was thinking in my head it had to be between 11:35 and 11:40. Well, it turns out I called police at 11:39.
11:39, okay.
Yeah.
Was there anybody else at the scene whenever you got here?
No.
When you were coming up the street, did you see anybody walking away? Did you pass any other cars?
No.
Okay.
No. There was nobody. I just expected to come like every other night, come right around the bend, and go up and go home. That's it. You know.
Okay.
It very much surprised me to see somebody laying in the road. I go, what did he do? I thought, well, maybe it's wet. He could have slipped and hit his head. He could have been drunk, or he might have got hit by a car. I couldn't tell, but I have this little flashlight I take out of my pocket, and I said, oh shucks, he's bleeding, you know. But when I looked closer, it was like blood was running out of his ear. I tapped him on the leg like that, you know. So I immediately called.
Okay.
I had to call him. I called apparently Aliquippa down here within about 30 seconds of getting out of my van.
Okay. Basically, where your van's parked at right now, just past the body, is that where you stopped at? Did you move the car at all after?
They did, yeah. They moved it up.
Who did?
When I came in, my lights hit him. As soon as that hit him, I went across the enough in case traffic came down the hill so nobody could run him over.
And who moved the vehicle?
One of the officers down there.
Okay.
They asked me if they could. I said, sure.
All right. So you see the body, pull your car into the middle of the road, you get out, you went over, you said you nudged his leg to see if he'd wake up?
Well, I said, oh no, this is bad. I go, what? So he wasn't moving, he wasn't saying anything. And I walked beyond, and I just tapped him on his right leg, like that. And I hadn't even noticed all the blood on the road. I thought that was just like water.
Okay.
When I shine a light on it, I go, oh no, it was thick.
Yeah.
So when I called, I said, I really think he's dead, to be honest with you, because it's just too much damage, you know.
Yeah. And while you were down there, other than his leg, did you touch anything else?
No.
Did you move any of his clothing? Nothing like that?
Nothing.
Okay. And it looks like there might be a cell phone next to the body. You didn't touch that at all?
No.
I
saw that.
That's where it was sitting at?
It was laying just like that, face down in the
how long do you think it was until the other gentleman showed up here?
I would have to say, after I called the police, he showed up probably, the car came around the bend about 30 seconds after I hung up with the police.
Okay.
It was a very short call. And as I was waiting for somebody to come, they said they wouldn't be long. And this car came around, and I was flagging my light at him so he wouldn't maybe try to get around my van.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, we know about it. Because the other guy said he drove up the hill to his friend's and then he said, we got to go back and see if he's dead, Because he thought the guy was dead.
Okay.
The guy laying on the road. I did not. I thought he got hit by a car.
Gotcha. And who was the one that was saying that to you, that he already went past it once?
The one that already went past it is a red-bearded...
The red-bearded one. Okay. So that's his vehicle, as far as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said it was. He said it was. I didn't realize. I thought, when he said he ran up the hill, I thought he was on foot.
Okay.
But no, that was his car. He just shot up the hill for... I guess he needed more eyes or something. Maybe he was scared of the dark. I have no idea.
Okay. But he basically just said that he saw it, ran up there, got his buddies, and they came back. So all three of them showed back
yes,
up.
Because when I was trying to slow them down, make sure they didn't run him over, they said, "Nah, we already know. He told us."
Okay. And when they got on scene, did they touch anything? Did they check the body? No, they never got close to it at all.
They did not.
Okay.
Because where I was standing when I stopped them, that's as far as they went.
Okay.
And I was uphill from the body too.
Did anybody else show up other than paramedics and the
No.
firefighters, anything like that? Nobody else that you saw?
No. And they got here right quick. I don't think it was as many as 2 minutes. 2 full minutes they were probably up here.
Okay. And have you ever seen him before, the victim?
No, I don't believe I ever have.
Okay. How long do you think you've been down in the area?
I think I've been on the street for close to 5 years.
Okay.
Maybe 4 years anyways.
So you work at the airport and then just drive back on the weekends?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I started out, well, since I came here, it's all driving because flights weren't easy. I used to fly back and forth,
Okay.
And, keep a car each place. And finally, after renting once, I said, no, I could buy a house here for $7,000, so I did.
There you go. And, is there anything else that you think would be pertinent to the investigation? Anything I should know? Anything I may not have asked?
No, it's just that I was sad. It's a quiet neighborhood. I thought it was quiet anyways.
Yeah.
You can hear a pin drop. I mean, in the summertime, kids walk around the block, but I'm on Jones Street,
Mm-hmm.
So I just figured, because there was a guy, his name was Bill, and Bill used to walk up the hill, and I'd always coming around here at 11:30ish. Bill, you want to ride? Because he's coming from one of the bars or something.
Okay.
Very pleasant man. He passed away some years ago. Would he jump in? I'd give him a ride to his house,
Yeah.
I thought this was one of them,
Yeah.
They just going up the hill. But, I mean, the other guy was my neighbor. I knew him,
Mm-hmm.
And,
I mean, obviously you're driving this road pretty often at the same time every night. Have you ever seen anybody else consistently other than Bill?
no, but there's seasonally in the summer, it's not uncommon to see somebody walking up and down this hill around after dark, say 10:30, 11. But I'm a first shift guy, but on Fridays I work an extra shift for another guy who wants off,
Okay.
I make the extra money.
Yeah.
So on Friday I come up later, and I wasn't surprised to see somebody walking perhaps. I was surprised to see somebody laying down.
Okay.
And my first thought was, the son of a gun's probably drunk and he's sleeping on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought, well, I knew he was damaged. I go, he must have got hit by a car.
Welcome to Season 3, Sunset Secrets. During this season, the investigation of the homicide of Tyreek Pugh will be on full display. pointing out the errors, pointing out the discrepancies, and most of all, bringing to light all the evidence that would have easily proven to be and provide jury members with a reasonable doubt as to the innocence or guilt of Sheldon Jeter Jr. when it came to the murder of Tyreek Pugh. The state provided no motive for Sheldon Jeter Jr. to kill a long-time acquaintance and quote-unquote family member of the Moreland household. Season 1 followed the actual trial in 2021. Season 2 went back to 2001 and talked about the Jamie Brown case and showing similarities with investigations being derailed and purposefully led in a different direction. Season 3 now will show the state's case and how they went about investigating, or lack thereof, of leads with witnesses, contradicting statements,
when I found
the
out
crime
that
scene,
she lives here. There's a neighbor. You said
search
something about a
warrants,
jury. What were you talking about?
The jury that lives
questionable
by Del
photos,
Taco, that was just
and most importantly, the vehicle that Sheldon Jeter Jr. was driving that evening, as well as surveillance cameras and the authenticity of time stamps on those surveillance cameras. Everything surrounding Tyreek Pugh's homicide relies heavily on surveillance cameras and 4 witnesses that eventually ended up at the crime scene that evening. Aliquippa, Pennsylvania is home to about 9,000 residents. And one of those residents, who was a part-time resident living on Jones Street, was the 911 caller the night of May 15, 2020.
It is in Aliquippa. I wish I knew the name of this road, but when you get off 51 and you're going down Franklin, you make your first left and go right up the hill. Right up the hill. Immediate left off of Franklin Avenue when you came off 51. That is correct. Okay, and what's going on there? It looks like a man got hit by a car. He's not in good shape. I don't even know if he's alive. Okay, you're right there in that sharp bend? Yes. Yes, there's blood all over the road. It's thick and clotting. I don't think he's alive. Are you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. We're getting everybody sent up there. Can I have your name, please? Joseph Richardson. Responding area 246 Kiehl Street, 246 Kiehl. It's at the sharp bend by Kiehl Street Hill. A male down on the ground appears to be struck by a vehicle, unresponsive, severe bleeding. Copy, Connie.
Again, there was only 2 officers that responded from Aliquippa. That would be Bits, the 509 badge, and then Trello, the 508 badge. They were the only 2 dispatched. They arrived on scene. But when PSP and the first 2 arrivals for PSP arrive, Let's take a look at their report of when they arrive, because that's what begins the crime scene log. The crime scene log. It should also be noted that the 911 caller stated that within 2 minutes, they were there really quick. Within 2 minutes, there was, somebody there, an officer there. Well, according to the reports, Officer Bitts was there within 30 seconds. Pennsylvania State Police, better known to everybody as PSP in Aliquippa, PSP has to take over all major investigations due to the fact that Aliquippa, Pennsylvania's police department, Aliquippa PD, has been suspended. They're under probation. They are not allowed to be doing any major crimes alone. That is something that happened before the Rachel Del Tondo case in 2018, and it has continued on. Aliquippa Police Department has always been under the scrutiny of corruption. And this case would be no different. Officer, or I should say Trooper, Trombetta would be the first PSP arriving officer on scene that evening, and he arrived with Trooper Smith. They were dispatched to the area of 246 Kiehl Street to assist with a deceased male in the roadway. Upon arrival on scene, and at that time it would have been 5:16 because it was after midnight, they said they arrived approximately at 12:06 a.m. Members of the Aliquippa Police Department advised that they had cordored off the crime scene with yellow crime scene tape. Members of the Aliquippa Police Department, members of the Aliquippa Fire Department, as well as 4 civilians were observed within the yellow tape. The deceased male in the roadway was observed to have multiple gunshot wounds. I also observed a burgundy Kia Sorento bearing Pennsylvania registration plates of this, and a silver Chrysler Town and Country minivan bearing the Pennsylvania temporary registration plates of this. They were both within the crime scene tape when they arrived. I then started a crime scene entry log. All persons within the crime scene tape were identified and logged on the crime scene entry log. I maintained the crime scene entry log throughout the entire course of this incident. And this would be the first PSP report done by Trombetta, as he and Smith were the first arriving officers at 12:06 a.m. This Pennsylvania State Police crime scene entry log would prove everything in this case as far as the first gathering of the evidence at Two Cousins convenience store on Franklin Avenue, as well as the names of everybody that went inside that yellow tape. After Sheldon's trial, I took a glance at that, and I noticed Andrew Galletti, police officer of Aliquippa, Pennsylvania Department, Aliquippa PD, 11:43, was inside and at the crime scene at 11:43. That is when Alex Bitts, as well as Trillo, that's the time that they say that they are arriving. The only problem is that Andrew Galletti was not dispatched. How was Andrew Galletti, police officer for Aliquippa Department, as well as Bitts and Trello, how is he now part of the PD that's inside that tape? And noting that he was there at 11:43 p.m. within 1 minute of Officer Bitts, at the same time as Trello, but within a minute or two of the 911 call. further look into the crime scene log entry, it would come apparent that Police Chief Lang was there at the same time as Trombetta, both marking down that they were there at 12:06. And then Trooper Daniel Smith being marked down at first at 12:10 a.m., which got switched to 12:06. But Trooper Daniel Smith's name isn't till all the way at the bottom of page 1. And also, Trooper Daniel Smith had put down 0010, which is 12:10, only for that to be crossed off and added as 0006. Also, Chief Lane had 00, a weird 0, and then a weird 6. Okay, as it looks like it was written over again because it was a different number. And then Trooper Trombetta, when you look closely here, you're going to be able to see that he also wrote down 0010. For whatever reason, these were changed to 0006. With the big question mark of us, why would Trooper Daniel Smith's name be so far down if he arrived and was one of the first people of PSP? So it would be the first 4 witnesses as they have it. Then it would be there's 3 PD, Aliquippa Police Department. Then they have fire. Then they have the chief from Aliquippa Police Department. Then we start getting into the troopers from PSB, McGeary, Broader, Thomas, Miller. Crime scene entry log. Not only does when you come into the crime scene, but then when you leave the crime scene. As you are supposed to clock, when someone's in, when someone's out, to keep a very accurate log. Also, you are given when you start your crime scene log, you are also given instructions to keep the first responding officer checklist. And that would be things like note the date and time of arrival at scene, note weather and lighting conditions, begin crime scene entry log. Once inside the crime scene area, note description and license plate numbers of all vehicles in the crime scene. Identify all persons at the crime scene. Request that they stay. If possible, ensure they stay separated, until enough information relative to their knowledge of the incident is obtained. So again, what happened before PSP arrived? You have PSP arriving at 12:06, allegedly a.m., but you got 4 witnesses allegedly at that crime scene when Aliquippa police arrive, and that would have been 11:42. So over that 25 plus minutes, where were these witnesses? Were they separated? What did Aliquippa Police Department do before the arrival of PSP? It should be noted that Aliquippa Police Department was not responsible for a single report that went into the discovery of this case. So none of those first responding officers before the PSP arrived had any reports, wrote anything. In fact, on the checklist of what you're supposed to do is item number 22 is, determine who had entered the crime scene prior to your arrival. Persons discovering the crime, medical fire personnel, note their agency affiliation and obtain their names and vital status. You're supposed to obtain then a brief description of what they saw or heard. So this responding officer should have immediately, in my opinion, obtained these immediately. 12:06 arrival time. You're going to find out what they heard, saw. During your interviews, ensure the persons present at the scene prior to your arrival are separated during these interviews. Determine if the person present at the scene moved or disturbed or cleaned anything. Lights turned on or off, doors opened or closed. This was obviously an outside scene. And as we heard the report just a minute ago, this officer said that there were 2 cars inside that crime scene. Were there any vehicles turned on or off, glass swept or blood wiped up? And also the reason why, if there was a reason why, if anything was moved, disturbed or cleaned, you have to state the reason why something would have been moved. In this situation, this officer says that vehicle, there was 2 of them inside that crime scene. When the crime scene photos are taken, there is only 1 vehicle inside the tape. The van of the 911 caller was moved out of the crime scene tape, not by the 911 caller that owns that vehicle. And not a single officer mentioned this, except when the witness mentioned it, that the vehicle was moved in his interview. It should be noted that all 4 of those witnesses were not interviewed on tape until after 1:15 in the morning.
Number 10847, today's date, May 16th, 2020. Time is 01:24 hours and 1:24 a.m. Trooper Thomas, badge number 10847, today's date's May 16th, 2020. Time is 01:14 hours.
Another checklist that you must complete is the crime scene checklist. And this would have been done by Trooper Max DeLuca. The scene is outdoor, located on Kiehl Street between Highland Avenue and William Street. You're going to be checking different boxes. The arrival time was 2 o'clock that he put DeLuca when he was doing this. He noted the weather at the scene. The scene was investigated without a search warrant due to it being on a public roadway. I was briefed upon arrival by Sergeant Fanella. The scene was examined for fingerprints, footprints, blood, hair, fibers, and soil. The victim was located on Kiehl Street in the south travel lane, down the hill travel lane. The victim was laying on his back with his feet pointed downhill. There was no indication that the body had been moved or attempts made to conceal the body. The victim was found on Kiehl Street. Kiehl Street is a public roadway and accessible to the general public. The victim has a surgical face mask resting on his chin below his mouth. The mask was consistent with Pennsylvania guidelines for citizens in public settings due to the coronavirus pandemic. It is believed the face mask belonged to the victim. There were no signs the body was staged. There was a large amount of blood at the scene. It is unknown if any of the blood can be attributed to the actor or all belongs to the victim. There was no indication of any foreign material being brought to the scene. A firearm was used in the commission of this crime, but no firearms were located at the scene. Brandon was the first person to report seeing the victim's body in the street. The victim had no relationship with Brandon. Again, Kiehl Street is a public roadway and maintained by the city of Aliquippa, therefore no search warrants were needed. The victim was located on a section of Kiehl that had no exterior lighting. No firearms were located at the scene. 7 spent shell casings were collected from the scene. They included 4 Federal casings and 3 Winchester casings. No drugs were located at the scene. No writings, no drawings were located at the scene. The extended area around the scene was searched. Video surveillance was obtained from residents and businesses in the area. Where the videos were obtained will be documented in attached homicide action reports. The scene was secured, and spectators were prohibited from scene access. Beaver County coroner arrived on scene at about 2 a.m. Refer to the crime scene log entry. No EMS personnel were on scene when I arrived. No firearms were located at the scene. The scene was outdoors and the weather was warm with sporadic rainfall. The temperatures were in the 70s in the evening and dropped to the low 50s overnight. The scene was photographed and documented by PSP FSU unit. Refer to the FSU reports for measurements and distance. All law enforcement material was collected. The scene was released on 5/16 at 3:33 a.m. It should be noted that on the crime scene log, DeLuca arrives at 1:34 a.m. Also, the crime scene checklist was completed in a typed up report not until June 16th, 2020, which would be exactly 1 month after Sheldon Jeter Jr. was arrested. How could Sheldon Jeter Jr. be arrested in less than 24 hours for this homicide when there is no investigation prior to his arrest? And you will see with dates of reports, dates of going to speak with witnesses, but ultimately it's the dates that surround any type of investigation into this case is where the huge question mark is on how are you arresting somebody without investigating anything. The night of Tyreek Pugh's homicide, Aliquippa was there. They brought PSP in. They had fire medic. They then called in the coroner. They had the crime scene, FSU, to take the pictures. So all of this was going on from the moment that PSP arrived. Things started to take action. And then I thought about it, and it wasn't right as PSP arrived. It was when certain troopers arrived. And that would be troopers McGeary, Miller, Broughton, Thomas. An incident report is going to be the report that explains everything. This is what happened that night. And PSP Trooper McGeary was the one in charge of writing up the incident report. And your incident report is going to have information that talks about your victim, talks about if you have a possible suspect, and that would be, your perp, the accused. There's going to be a description of your scene, the location. There's going to be a synopsis. There's going to be a part for, physical evidence. And then it comes into investigative details. And Trooper McGeary noted the following, that Officer Bitts was the first officer on scene and arrived at approximately 11:43 p.m. It was immediately apparent to Officer Bitts that the individual was deceased and was observed as having multiple gunshot wounds. The Aliquippa Police Department requested the assistance of the Pennsylvania State Police in the investigation and all the responsibilities of the homicide investigation. The scene was secured by Aliquippa Police and PSP. A perimeter was set, and the Pennsylvania State Police Troop D Major Case Team was activated and responded to conduct the criminal investigation into the death of the unknown male who would later be identified as Tyreek Pugh. On May 15th at approximately 11:50 p.m., Pennsylvania State Police, Troop D Beaver Criminal Investigation Unit, Supervisor Corporal Michael Miller was the one that contacted McGeary, advising him of the incident and assigned McGeary to respond to the scene. Just after midnight, at approximately 12:34 a.m., McGeary arrived on scene and was briefed by first responding Aliquippa officer Alex Bitts, as well as Trooper Trombetta and Trooper Smith. So, no mention of Galletti from Aliquippa and no mention of Trello from Aliquippa. McGeary observed the scene on an uphill sharp curve in the roadway of Kiehl Street. The scene was secured by police tape, police vehicles, and other emergency vehicles. Trooper Trombetta was maintaining the crime scene entry log and first responder checklist. Trooper Smith advised me, McGeary, that there are 4 individuals on the other side of the crime scene waiting to be interviewed by investigators. Trooper Smith also advised that there has been a tent placed over the deceased due to slight rainy weather conditions, and upon Smith's arrival, there was a silver van parked near the deceased body but has since been pulled up a short distance on Kiehl Street. Officers on scene were not able to identify the deceased with the information thus far. Upon McGeary's initial approach to the scene, he observed the deceased male lying face up on Kiehl Street with his feet pointing down the hill. Multiple empty pistol shell casings were observed near the body, and the male appeared to have multiple gunshot wounds to the head. Blood was observed flowing from the body down Kiehl Street. While on scene, the 4 individuals who were later located on scene upon Aliquippa Police Department's arrival were properly identified and interviewed. Brandon, Eugene, Dwayne, and Joseph. Those interviews revealed the following. Brandon discovered the body first, but then continued up the Kiehl Street hill, where he would pick up 2 other individuals, Eugene and Dwayne. While Brandon was picking these individuals up, Joseph discovered the body and contacted 911. Brandon, Dwayne, and Eugene then returned to the scene, where they observed Joseph, where he had advised them that he had contacted 911. The scene was processed by Trooper D Forensic Services Unit on May 16, 2020. During processing, the deceased male was identified as Tyreek Pugh, with an address of 127 Orchard Street, Aliquippa. Via his Pennsylvania photo identification was located in his wallet. Through investigative efforts, it was determined that Sheldon Jeter did intentionally kill Tyreek Pugh. With the recommendation of the Beaver County District Attorney's Office, a criminal complaint was generated charging Sheldon Jeter with criminal homicide. Trooper Ryan Broader was a co-defendant on this charge. Please reference all the attached homicide action reports and other related documents to see how our investigation led to the arrest of Sheldon Jeter Jr. This would all have happened within 24 hours from the homicide that Sheldon Jeter Jr. was arrested.
Why were you coming to Aliquippa over this location?
Because I was actually going to go and chill, hang out, whatever you want to call it, with my buddies over there. The one is Preston, he's in the purple car, and the other one standing outside the police line is Gene. That's his father.
Okay, so Preston and Gene live over here?
Yes.
Okay.
They live, it's 103 Moreland Street.
Okay. How long have you known Preston and Gene?
Over 10 years.
Okay. So what time do you think you left your house approximately?
maybe 11:15, somewhere around there, I would say.
Okay.
Because I left my house, stopped at Sheets in Rochester real quick, and then after that, I was on my way over here, took 51 over here, and I got off on the exit right before the hill here.
Right.
Started coming up the hill, saw a body laying on the ground, saw blood. I didn't call 911 right away. I was still worried that, who knows, maybe the shooter could still be in the area. I immediately went up to Preston and Jean's house.
Did you call them, or you just immediately, did you make any calls when you saw the body?
No.
Okay.
I immediately drove up to their house. They would happen to be on the porch. I told them, we got to call 911. There's a body, there's blood. We got in the car. We came back down here. The older gentleman that's in the van, he was already here and already called 911. That's what he told us when we got down here.
So when you said you first saw the body, I think not your exact words, but a roundabout way, you said you might have thought the shooter was still there. So did you know that the guy laying on the road was shot? Did it look like he was shot?
It looked like he was shot the way he was laying there. The amount of blood that was just rolling down the road.
Okay. When you were driving up the hill, before you saw the body, did any car pass you going the opposite way?
No.
Was anybody walking going the opposite way?
No.
Did you hear anything like gunshots? Are you familiar with gunshots?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear anything like that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So when you drive, you see the body, you drive up to Gene and Preston's house. Do you get out of the car and walk up to the porch, or do you yell from your car, hey?
I got out of the car, ran up onto the porch. I told him, there's a body, there's blood. We got to call the police.
Okay. So, how long do you think after you initially see the body until you come back? Is
Not even 2 minutes.
Not even 2 minutes? Okay.
When you first pulled up and saw the body, did you stop and get out, or did you stay in the vehicle?
I stayed in the vehicle. I didn't get out at all.
Did you put your window down or anything to look out, or?
I had the windows down because I was, driving down the highway, getting some, actual air from outside. But, coming up and seeing this, when I, drove up the street, like I was saying, to go tell them we had to call the police, I was like, nope, I'm putting the windows up.
Okay. Have you ever seen this gentleman before?
No.
No.
How often do you come over here to Preston and Jean's house?
I actually come over here very often.
Okay. And this is the route you always take?
Mm-hmm. This road, always.
Okay. When you're getting off the exit to come up the hill, did you see any cars making a right on the 51 like they're going to go towards Ambridge?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you see anybody standing out or along the road or out on the porch down there or anything like that?
Down there at the bottom of the hill?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
The only cars and only people that were standing down there were people actually on the main street of Aliquippa.
Franklin there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only saw those cars there because they're always there, and I saw them driving to the exit here.
Do you remember any of those cars? Whether it be colors, shapes, anything like that?
No. They're just, they're there often, right there on the main road, Franklin.
Yeah.
Like, right where that first building is on your left.
Mm-hmm.
Those cars are always there.
Did you see anybody standing around or driving those cars? Was anybody in the car? Those cars?
I don't know if anybody was in the cars. They were a little too far away to see through the windows, but
okay.
Yeah, those are the only cars or people I saw right there on the main drag. I mean, as far as coming up the hill here to where I saw the body, no, there was no.
After Brandon Wexler was interviewed, next up was witness number 3, which was Gene.
Moreland?
How long have you lived there?
About 5-6 years.
Okay. So, tonight, or not, I know it's tomorrow technically,
right.
But last night, were you at home?
Yes.
Okay. So, kind of walk me through what happens.
Okay. Now, my son and I just got back from Sharon, PA.
Okay.
It was about 11:30. and my wife had eaten dinner, got in her shower, and was going to bed.
Okay.
My son and I stepped out on the porch, and it was, ballpark figure around midnight, and we heard multiple shots. I mean, it sounded like about 10 of them.
Could you sense like what direction they were coming from, or?
Well, we knew it was coming from this direction, but to me it sounded pretty muffled. Okay, I've been in the military, and I fired a lot of guns.
Right.
I don't know if somebody used a suppressor, and I do know that there is somebody in the neighborhood that does have one.
Who's that?
Well, I don't want to give the name because I don't want to end up like that guy.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean,
I will say he lives up here on Shaw Street. Okay, I'll give you his first name. That's all I know, and his name is Mike. I even have a picture of the weapon that...
Is Mike a white or black guy?
He's a black guy. I was drinking vodka with him, and he showed me this gun.
You weren't drinking vodka with him tonight, were you?
No,
okay.
No.
Containing car 2, old radio.
But wrong one. And to me, this is what it sounded like. Was...
How old do you think Mike is?
Oh, he's got to be in his 30s or 40s. He's a big guy. And to me, that's what it sounded like.
And Mike sent you this picture? Or?
I was sitting there with him. As you could see, we were drinking. And he handed it to me, let me look at it, and I just took a picture of it. This was a week ago.
All right. If we were to provide you a phone number, would you send that to us?
Yes, I would.
All right. We'll get to that. We'll put a pin in that and come back to that later. So, you said about midnight you heard multiple shots. They kind of sounded muffled. What happened after that?
Well, about 2 minutes later, he come flying up the road. Well, actually, about 10 minutes later, he come flying up the road, and he's telling us, call 911. There's a dead body in the road down here.
When you say he, I know we all
Brandon.
know Brandon.
Brandon, okay. Yes. And I said, okay, Brandon, let's go down and see what's going on, see if this guy actually is dead. And sure enough, we pull up, and I could see the hole in the guy's forehead. I knew he was gone.
Have you ever seen that guy before?
I'm going to tell you, he looks very familiar. He looks like a guy that used to live up here on Kiehl Street, and we knew him by the name of Ronnie.
Okay.
And he was a drug dealer.
How long ago did he stop living up here?
About a little over a year ago, him and his wife got into it, and I think she kicked him out. She moved out, and he moved down here somewhere. But I haven't seen him for a while. But like I said, that looks just like him.
So when you guys come down the hill here,
this gentleman was already stopped there.
The guy in the van?
Yes.
Do you guys get out of the car and go walk over to the body?
I walked over to the body. I didn't touch anything.
Okay.
I looked over, and I seen that he had a hole in his forehead, and I could see it in the back of his head where all the blood was draining.
Mm-hmm. That
it was a done deal. There's nothing I could do for him.
Did you or your son call 911? Or
we were going to call, but the man in the van already said that he had called 911.
Okay.
So we just stayed there.
Okay. Well, if we could backtrack just a little bit, after you hear the shots, do you hear any like tires screeching or anything like that? Anybody yelling? Anything?
No.
Okay.
We heard the multiple shots, and that was it. And my son and I both were like, my son looked at me and goes, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "Yeah, I heard that. It was pretty muffled, but I heard that." And we hear shots through here all the time.
Yeah.
So, it didn't really surprise me. About a week ago, my neighbor from across the street said that he heard somebody let off what sounded like an Uzi back here. So,
right. I understand. Do you know of anybody that has cameras or surveillance video along this road here? Do you know anybody that lives on this road?
I don't know anybody that lives on this road, but I do know that somebody owned this property here on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And they put all that dirt there because people were constantly dumping mattresses and everything over there. So he may have cameras up there. I do not know, whoever owns it.
So are you talking about when you go around?
As you go around the bend off to the right here,
yeah,
you'll see a big berm of dirt right there. That whoever owned this property had that dump there, so it stopped people from dumping garbage back there.
Okay.
And you don't know who actually owns it?
No.
What about as you're coming up the hill there, there's a house that's got like basically it's painted on the garage. It says no parking. It's like a red brick house right there down at the bottom of the hill. Do you know who that is?
I don't know who that is.
Okay.
I've often suspected that they had something to do with the church that's right down here. So.
Okay. So just to recap, the dead gentleman appears to be Ronnie, somebody who you knew as Ronnie, but you're not sure.
Not positive, but he looks almost like him.
And he used to live up on Kiehl Street. Mike, who lives on Shaw Street, black male in his 30s or 40s, has that gun with a suppressor on it.
Yes.
Did you see Mike at all tonight?
No. I saw him earlier today. He was in he was in his Jeep that he usually parks up there. Him and his wife. He just did a bunch of renovation work and everything up there on his house there on Shaw Street. You can't miss it. I mean, he's got this really nice Jeep sitting there. But
is it like a Jeep Grand Cherokee or like a Jeep Wrangler?
Kind of like a Wrangler, but it looks like a Mad Spider almost. It's one of the newer models.
Okay. What color is it?
It's black.
Anything else distinctive? Does it have like custom wheels or sticker?
Yeah, it's got custom tires on it, custom wheels. Got some funky lights on the front of it that super bright, but other than that,
like a light bar or just like
no, the headlights itself. I mean, they're just weird.
Other than his wife, does he live with? Does he have any kids? Does he live with anybody else?
No,
Okay.
Just his wife.
You may have answered this, but where is he living at?
He lives up here on Shaw Street. I don't know the exact address, but you can't miss it. I mean, you can see where he's done a bunch of renovation work on his porch, and he put a brand new retaining wall in the front.
Does Mike work anywhere? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
So how's he getting all that money to do all that renovation?
Exactly. It's been rumored that he's one of the biggest drug dealers in this area. So I don't cross him.
Okay.
So you know his last name? You
No.
just don't want to. Okay.
I don't know his last name.
Okay. Do you know his wife's name?
So when you leave your house, can you see his house from your? Did you see the Jeep out in front?
No, I didn't see the Jeep out front.
Is that the only cars they have?
He's got a Jeep. His wife drives a white vehicle, and he's got a really nice blue Street Glide, Harley Davidson customized Street Glide.
Her white vehicle, is it an SUV too, or is it a car?
No, it's a regular car.
You know what? Like, is it a Chevy, Ford, Dodge?
I think it's a Dodge, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Do you have Mike's phone number?
No. I don't associate with him much. Like I said, I sat and drank with him that one night, and that's about it. We talk on the street every now and then, say, hey, how you doing? You know, that's about as far as it goes.
Okay.
Do you know who he associates with? Or who would know him a little bit better?
I know he associates with my neighbor who got busted a year ago. They raided his house because he was selling drugs.
Who's that?
His name is Chris. I don't know his last name, but he lives right next door to me. He's at 105 Moreland.
Okay. So when you went over that one time to Mike's house, what did you guys talk about? Was it just BSing?
Just BSing. Sitting there drinking vodka, you know, talking about women, talking about... Yeah, I know it's funny because his wife was there too. She wasn't too happy about it. But, you know, just everyday stuff. And then he pulled that out and he showed it to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. He pulled the clip out and handed it to me. I took a couple pictures of it.
Okay. All right.
If you
You could just forward that.
Unset Secrets, Advocating in Aliquippa, Season 3, sponsored in part by Fight for a Family, nonprofit, www.fightforafamily.com. That is www.fight4family.com. Also, YouTube page Truth and Transparency.